Hi, I'm JJ. Welcome or welcome back. I am going to do a mid-month roundup because I've already read a bunch of books, and two of them were five-star reads that I've been just anxious to talk about. They'll mostly likely be in my top 10 books of the year as well. And so I wanted to not have the end of the month video be so long by gushing about those two books, so I'm separating my reading. So I will have a bunch still to talk about at the end of the month, but I just wanted to do an update. So the first book I read this month, I listened to, was a classic, Lady Audley's Secret by Mary Elizabeth Braddon. That was written in 1862. And I did enjoy this. It kind of meandered through the end, and there was a couple of slow parts, but overall it was really good, and it was a lot better than I was expecting from a book that I hadn't really heard of. And so essentially there's this guy who goes missing, and his friend believes that he's murdered. So he starts investigating because he starts to suspect that his aunt's or his aunt or his uncle's young wife is the murderer, and he doesn't have anyone who believes him. Everybody thinks that the friend just went back to visit Australia and didn't feel the need to tell his friend that he was leaving or anything like that. So he doesn't really have anyone on his side who believes him as he starts to try to question what happened to his friend and do his own investigation. He does start talking to the guy's family, the missing guy's family, and the dad is like, oh, he's a troubled kid, he just never, I can't trust him, he'll be back, and eventually I'll forgive him, type of thing. But the sister actually believes him, and they start their own sort of questioning into what may have happened to him, whether he is dead or not. And in the event of that, you get to uncover this secret that his uncle's wife has been hiding. And it's kind of an interesting take on like the fallen woman type of story, because you think that she's this really bad person, because of his point of view, and because of how society deems women with questionable pasts or secrets. And what was really interesting is reading this book right after I had listened to The Woman That Could Not Be Silenced about women's mental health, and how men could have them committed just out of convenience to them in mental institutions, whether they were sane or not. And so kind of reading these in close proximity really made me have appreciation for this story, and I do want to read more from this author. What's really great is that she actually has a Christmas story that I plan to listen to for Christmas this year. And the next book was one of my top reads, 5-star Ruth by Elizabeth Gaskell. And so I am already an Elizabeth Gaskell fan. This one I kind of moved ahead of the line because there's a really good book that's coming out at the beginning of next year called Elizabeth and Ruth, and you get to explore her inspiration for this book, and how she met a young Irish prostitute in prison, and was actually in correspondence with her friend Charles Dickens about how to tell her story, knowing that she would probably write a story that would be essentially blacklisted. As soon as it was published, it was banned and burned. But she wanted to tell a redemptive story of a fallen woman, basically making her the hero of the story instead of the cautionary tale. And so Ruth was so different. You can tell the inspiration for later books like Tess of the Dubervilles and different stuff like that. But with this one, she never had her feel completely hopeless and helpless. So Ruth, a really good young orphan girl who was innocent, kind of got seduced by this man, an older man, who then disregarded her when he got bored with her, basically on his mother's wishes because he shouldn't have been around with this girl causing scandal. And so when she gets, unceremoniously tossed aside by this guy that she thought she loved, she is only 16 when she meets him. She's young, and she was gonna go jump in the lake or river, die by suicide, but she's saved by this man who he and her sister, his sister, take her in, and then they learn she's pregnant. And rather than tossing her out, rather than sending her away, they kind of come up with this scheme to let people think that she's a widow and that she's part of their, was married into their family or part of their family, which is why they're taking care of her. And then she ends up helping out at as a governess for this really religious family. She likes the younger kids. The older daughter, who's close to her age and unmarried by this time, early 20s, and she thinks that the boy that, or the man that she's supposed to marry, is into her governess, and she's kind of jealous and she doesn't know what to do. Well, pretty soon, the man finds out, he sees her, the one who disregarded her when she was young, the one who got her pregnant, the one who left her, recognizes her and wants to try to get her back to make things right. And she is prideful, and she does not want to take him back. Why would she put her heart through that again? She's good where she is. She doesn't need him. And so she says no, and pretty soon her secret's out, and she's scandalized all over again. And instead of having her be a fallen woman who loses absolutely everything, there are people who are still on her side and who fight for her and believe in her. And the ending is so good because it just, she doesn't have to deal with that shame alone. Her son realizes that, she's well liked by people because she's such a saint and she helps people, and they realize that she's done so much for them as a community, taking care of the sick and doing all this stuff, and it doesn't matter what mistakes she might have made in the past. It doesn't matter who she is. They just see what she does and how faithful and Christ-like she is, despite her past. And they sort of almost rally around her in a way that is so different from a lot of the stories that later take the fallen woman to the extremes, and you start to see the cautionary tale, or like the moral obligations that they say when these women have these scandals and stuff like this. So I really do love all these different takes on it, and to know that this was one of the first, written in 1853 by one of my favorite authors, and well done, and in the way that it explores how you can take the exact same storyline, but rather than making her this cautionary tale and villainizing her, you can show that what she did once when she was young, when she was taken advantage by someone else, when it wasn't a fault of her own, really, how that should not be what defines her. And I just really, really like that story. I am really looking forward to the take on it and the story that's coming out soon, and how Elizabeth wanted to share this different story in this life of this Ruth, who she had, like I said, met in prison. So I would really like to uh, do a comparison once I finally read that one, and go more in depth. I didn't want to give like the whole story away, even though I did give some spoilers away. But I definitely would recommend that one. And then, uh, so December is got a lot of stuff going on. So it is the 1 year anniversary of Syria being independent nation, getting rid of, disposing their dictatorship, and so they're newly independent. And I wanted to do something to celebrate that this month. Also, you have Christmas and you have Hanukkah and other holidays this month. It's also Disability Awareness Month, and so I was trying to include different stories this month. And so one of them was a graphic novel. I actually have the graphic novel, but it's out in my car, and it snowed and it's very cold outside, and I did not want to get it just for this video. But it's My Aunt is a Monster, and it's a Malaysian story, Malaysian author, and I'm hoping that I get it close or right. Raimina Yi, and she tells a story in the main character is an orphaned young girl who is blind, and she has to go live with her aunt, who they just found. She, mysteriously appeared. She was missing, and it turns out that her aunt was this famous explorer who went missing, and nobody has ever heard from her or seen her anymore since then. And there's where she's living, there's all these ghost stories about this monster in this house, and nobody wants to go near this house. And she doesn't realize, when her aunt says that she was exploring and she was badly disfigured, that she was actually turned into a monster. And so she and her aunt kind of start healing each other. She gets to have family again. She gets to feel like she's loved, and the aunt promises to take her on adventures, so her life and her adventuring days are not over. And the aunt gets to be around somebody who is just happy to be around her, who's not scared of her, who she doesn't always have to hide from. And then there is like in adventures, and these, the secrets are, revealed, and you kind of get this sensational type of adventure story, because it is for kids, but at the heart, it's a really cute, thoughtful story about acceptance and belonging. And the character, half the time, you are not always remembering that she's blind, because it's not, always said, but she just gets to experience life and have experiences. So it's her blindness is normalized, which is a really great thing to see in children's literature. The next one was another of my 5-star reads this month, The Reformatory by Tananarive Due. And that is classified as a horror story. So this would be kind of my contribution to, like, the scary Christmas stories. It's not Christmas at all, but just the idea of reading something spooky during this time. And the idea is that the monsters or the ghosts in the story are not what's scary. It's the humans that are the monsters in the story. And so it takes place in Florida in 1950s, with Jim Crow. And 12-year-old gets in trouble because there's a white bully who's been picking on his sister, and he defends her. And when he fights back, he's the one who's put on trial and sent to a boys' reformatory school. So at this school, which ends up being haunted, he sees ghosts and tries to understand the significance of a school like this in a time like this where they're the ones being punished when other people are doing worse things out there. And the warden at the school uh, is not, they're doing really bad things. There's a lot of trigger warning things that you should read because of what they're doing to these children in general. But he also is just a really bad man in general, and he's being haunted essentially by all the people that he's killed. And he wants this kid, the new kid there who can see ghosts, to help him catch the ghosts. And in trying to learn about how to get rid of the ghosts, learn about why he's there, trying to find a way to escape, trying to figure out who he can trust, he finds out the real secrets of this place. In the meantime, you have his sister who's trying everything she can do to try to get him out, try to help him escape. She's a very strong, independent character on her own. And then they also have a father who is wanted for his own perceived crimes and on the run. And so the courts and the sheriffs and stuff are kind of using the children as leverage to try to get the guy, their dad. So there's a lot going on. It's a very much about race and systemic racism and abuse towards children. And reading it very much reminded me of all the indigenous schools, the stories that you read or that I have read about their treatment in these schools where they were trying to Christianize these children from these savage homes. And so since they seen them as less than human, they did not have to treat them humanely. So it very much reminded me of those stories. In particular, I know I have talked about it before, but Indian Horse, where his treatment at a school like that was really significant to the story. And so that was one that I would do in comparison to this one. But I really enjoyed the writing style. I'll definitely read more works from the author, but I did not expect to like horror stories as much as I have this year, and now I'm kind of finishing the year with some of the horror stories being my favorites. So I guess that goes to show just, let yourself try new things and get out of your comfort zone a little bit when it comes to reading. The next couple were part of a series. I don't know if it's a trilogy or if it's going to be more books, but it was just kind of lighthearted after some of those heavy reads. And I read two of them, and the series is called The Investigations of Massa and Pleiade. And so the first book was The Mimicking of Known Successes, and the second book was The Imposition of Unnecessary Obstacles. They are the most confusing titles. Essentially, it's a science fiction murder mystery with like a Holmesian detective who sees things that other people don't see. She doesn't really interact really well with people, and she has to investigate. So you get a lot of really interesting world building. These books could probably be together as one single story because they're short, and each mystery kind of concludes at the end, but it has an overarching story as they are set on Jupiter, and they're talking about how their colony in Mars failed, but there are still some people who want to try to return and rebuild on Earth. And you have this interesting, the political structure, the understanding of the different worlds and stuff. And so I like the world building in it. I wish that there was more of it. It kind of comes out slowly in pieces as you go across the book. So I'm sure by book 3, I'll get even more of the story. But it is just kind of interesting. Sometimes the science feels dense, but the story and the characters and stuff are engrossing enough that it was just kind of a light-hearted, quick read for me, kind of a palate cleanser in between some of the other stuff. So I did enjoy them. They're not for everyone. They are sapphic, romance and intertwined. Not much of a romance. It's very much a slow burn, as they're exes and they're kind of learning to work together, and understand each other, and try to survive this murder mystery that's unfolding. The next one I really enjoyed as well. I would have almost given it a 5 stars, but then it kind of, because it's dual timelines, one was so much more fascinating than one of the other ones. So I'm sorry, I have to keep turning my heat on and off. It's freezing in here without it, but it gets kind of warm because I have a heater right by my legs because it's cold otherwise. Anyway, if it were all written in a more, I guess, clear cut way, I probably would have enjoyed it more. Like I said, I just enjoyed one of the timelines more than the other one. And well, the book itself was fascinating though, because it was a part of history that I was not aware of. It is called You Will Be Safe Here by Damian Barr. And I've actually been wanting to read this book ever since I read Gardens of the Evening Mists, which is a Malaysian author story about World War II, and you deal with like colonization and the rise of the Chinese Communist Party, kind of all intertwined there, as well as their invasion and the effects of the Japanese during World War II on their country. So I really enjoyed that book, and in that book there was a character who was Scottish, who fled oppression from his home by the English, settled in South Africa, and then had to endure the Boer Wars and lose his family essentially once again by the English, only to then end up in Malaysia and deal with the colonization by the British there. So it shows very much about imperialism and the effects on the world and varying populations. But it always fascinated me because I didn't know so much about the Boer Wars. And he technically was after that, but he had mentioned the Boer Wars there, and I had to obviously do research. So this book had been on my TBR for a good year, maybe a year and a half, and I finally got around to reading it, and I'm glad that I did. So it starts out at towards the end of the Second Boer Wars, and so what they are essentially is a lot of the colonizers who were, the Dutch East India Company and varying places from Europe and before the British came down to South Africa, who settled there as farmers. And then the British came and diamonds were found, and now they wanted to remove the other white settlers and have the English settle there. And so they went to war against all these farmers, which in Dutch was Afrikaans, I believe, is where the word Boers from, and that is the wandering farmer type of aspect, the nomad farmer. And so they rounded up all these, once they went to war, they brought a whole bunch of their British troops there, tried to get rid of all the soldiers, all the rebellion that was happening for the fight back, and they would round up the women and children in concentration camps. This was predecessor to Hitler in World War II and learning, concentration camps are successful and they help, and you can contain a whole bunch of people. So the women and children were all sent there. A lot of the men were killed in these wars. And then you move on and you get apartheid, and so you deal with not just the colonization aspect, but now you have the racism aspect as well included. And so this story focuses on both of those, because you get the end of the war, you get the Boers who are, this woman is rounded up with her children. Her husband's off fighting, and she's sent to one of these concentration camps and kind of learns what it's like there. We kind of get to see what it's like. And that part was really interesting to me. Then it jumps to more current times. And these same concentration camps were used as almost conversion camps. So they were anti-gay camps, but they were also camps that were so racist because they were a bunch of people who wanted to get the land that after apartheid ended, and blacks were in their, African blacks were finally allowed to, have their rights back and some of their lands back. Some of these from the Boers, their ancestors now wanted to reclaim the land that they believed that was theirs, that was owed to them. So you have this like religious fanatical racist camps happening that parents are sending their children to get this indoctrination, to try to be more manly and fight back, and a lot of them were gay kids, or kids who just were troublesome and they wanted to make them men, which I did not know anything about these camps existing, and they're basically at the same camps that this horrible stuff happened to their ancestors, type of thing. And in it all, you finally are acknowledging and learning also that in addition to all these Boer rebels being sent to these concentration camps during the Boer Wars, that you are learning about the black experience, that they were sent to camps as well, that there was many more camps. They were treated much worse and more harshly, more horribly than they were treated at the white camps. And you get to learn about all this interesting and tragic and horrific history that's not just history. Some of it is a lot more contemporary than, in the early 2000s, rather than the Boer Wars ending in the early 1900s. So it's not that far removed from us that stuff like this was still going on. And so that part was also really interesting. It was kind of the in-between part, because the kid that got sent there, you kind of get his family story too, his mom and his dad, because he's sent there by his mom, and his dad left, so he was raised by this boyfriend of the mom, and he's the one who wants him to, be more of a man. But you get kind of almost 3 different storylines, and 2 of them were excellent, and the other one was just not as interesting to me, which is why I marked it down from possibly being a 5-star book to a 4.5, which is still a great book. I still learned a lot. I am still really glad I read it, and I will be reading more about him. He is a Scottish actor, and he's actually openly gay as well, so he has a couple of stories that he wrote. He wrote a really great sounding memoir that I want to read about his time growing up under Margaret Thatcher's very anti-gay regime, essentially. And so I want to read that in the near future. And then another one that I was actually disappointed in reading this year, or this month, was Mapping the Interior, and that was another Stephen Graham Jones horror book. This was a short audiobook. The audiobook was only like 2 hours, so it's a short story-ish, not novella. But it just really didn't have the depth or the fascination that I have for all of his other things that I've read. So I was a bit disappointed. But what was interesting, and it was a ghost story. There was this, I think he was 12 and his little brother was younger, and his little brother was getting really bad seizures, and he was getting bullied and stuff in school. He would come home with bruises all over, and he started seeing his dead father, who kind of left him and never wanted anything to do with him, and then died. He's appearing as a ghost, and he's noticing that he's getting more corporeal and more corporeal, to the point that he's almost going to be seen and being able to be touched and stuff. He's almost real, and he realizes that he's actually sort of sucking the life force out of his little son, or so the little brother, in order to come back. And it's about essentially using people and selfishness and basically stealing from other cultures, because the dad was a white man, and so he's stealing from the indigenous children of his to come back into reality and stuff like that. So he still does, have a commentary on all this very important and very interesting stuff. And the story was interesting enough. It was so short. I guess I wanted more. I wanted a better explanation. I wanted more understanding. I wanted more in that world, and I guess that's what was disappointing. Is I guess I wanted more. And then the last couple I have are ones that I read physically. This was just another palate cleanser, quick read. It is the 12th Grade Night. It's a retelling of Shakespeare's Twelfth Night, but in high school, and it's a graphic novel. Just a quick, cute, very, very queer story, where these twins get separated. One wants to go to a different school than the other one, and it kind of has a little nice thing with their relationship, how they both misunderstand wanting a bit of independence and a bit of distance, for not wanting a relationship with their sibling at all. And so there's a bit of hurt on both sides that gets cutely explored here. So the sister is sick of going to an all-girls school where she has to wear skirts and dress up, and so she goes and she wears boy clothes and is mistaken as a lesbian, when she actually has a crush on one of the boys who is in love with the girl. So basically all the same names in the Shakespeare story too. So she's Vi, and then there's Orenzo, and why can I never remember her name? Olivia, such a hard name. And so she has a crush on Orenzo. Orenzo has a crush on Olivia. Olivia has a crush on V. And it's, all the Shakespeare humor and mistaken identity type of things, all just in a cute graphic novel format. I did enjoy it. I guess I always wish when they do remakes that they would make it go the other way, and that instead of randomly liking the brother that she's never met, which they actually didn't do here, they handled that much better. But I kind of always wanted to have a remake where Liv does end up with Olivia, or V ends up with Olivia and not the other way. But anyway, Unless I write it myself, I probably will never get it. And then the last one I read, I was gonna save this one to the end of the year, but I do want to make sure that I get some Christmas books and stuff in for Christmas, so I read this one early. Raina, June, and The One and Only Now. I did enjoy this book. It's really great contemplation about grief. She's grieving the loss of her friend, who died about a year before this book starts, and she's still not over, trying to understand what happened. And then just realizing that when somebody dies, and then you find out things about them, are you glad that you're finding out more about them, that they still get to live on as you learn more? Or are you disappointed and upset because you thought you knew this person so well, and so now you feel like there were these sides to them that they didn't share with you, so did you really know them at all? And now you can't take out that anger and that hurt on them because they're gone. And so I really thought that was a great idea and exploration of it, because there are so many nuances to leaving or to losing someone, and to dealing with that grief, especially someone that you feel so close to, that you feel like their death, once you find out more about it, feels like a betrayal. The idea of, was it an accident, and then maybe realizing that it might have not been an accident, what if it was a suicide? Does that change them as a person for you? And in addition to that, she also has to deal with her absentee father, who lives in Iran, where they all live, over in California, and he comes once a year to visit, and they all have to change who they are. The mom, who she usually gets along with really well, is now a completely different person with the dad around. And the brother and she and her brother don't really connect anymore like they used to, because now that the brother's older, he's getting to get all these advantages that she doesn't have as a Iranian woman. So I just find the way that they dealt with the interpersonal relationships in here, identity and understanding yourself and your relationships with those around you, was really well explored. What was really fascinating about this was she wanted to be able to honor her friend who died, who was going to apply for this contest where you have to, basically poetry or rapping type of thing in front of a large group of people to try to win this contest. And he wanted to do that. That was his life dream. And she writes poetry, but she's shy. She doesn't even raise her hand in class. She hates getting picked on. She almost has panic attacks if they ask her to answer something in class. But she wants to perform her friend's words so that he can live on, so that she feels like she can honor him. And so she has to overcome that stage fright. And as she's doing that, she's actually learning to have her own voice, and realizing that maybe the truth that she needs to share is not his on stage, it's hers. And so her truth is that she wonders about what it means with losing her friend and not having known things about him. She wonders what it means about not feeling like she's living up to the expectations of her absentee father, or her mother, who she's starting to realize she doesn't know at all either, because she's learning her own secrets about her mom. And she's also falling for a girl for the first time, and she can't tell that to her family either. So she has all these truths that she finds her voice for, and is able to share in a most beautiful way by honoring that voice that's growing inside of her, and able to speak her truth and her fears and her hopes and her dreams and everything for an audience, so that she will hopefully be brave enough to tell the people that mean the most to her. And I really believe that this was a great way to end a year. I wanted to have it bookmarked with having read Martyr earlier in the year, and I think that was a great decision because I feel like it encompasses his Martyr was a story fascinated with death as well, but this one gives much more hope to it. This gives more life and more like living in that truth and finding your voice and having that voice be what carries you on, and being able to be your whole true self, so that she doesn't question anymore, and she understands she kept secrets from her friends and her family as well, because she was scared, not because she was hiding from them, not because she was actively lying from them. And it helps her come to more with terms of the things that she didn't know about her friend who died, and maybe his secrets were okay as well, and he just didn't have the time to share them that she has, and she's not going to waste that time. And so just knowing that you know, especially with the losses that I have had recently, you never know when you'll get that time or if you'll have time. And so to live in the one and only now, and I feel like that was just a great way to end a great year of reading. Like I said, I know I still have more to read, but this is kind of how I want to think about going into the next year, and how I want to think about this year ending is living in the moment type of thing. That being said, the books that I still have to read, I still am working on Say Nothing, and I do have to read, I only just started I Who Have Never Known Men. That's for a book club that I'm reading, so I do have to read that. And then I have to finish Next Time Will Be Our Turn, and that is a story of a Indonesian Chinese girl who is the black sheep of her family because she likes girls and she doesn't know what to say, or how to say it, or how to like not let them down by being who she is, until her grandmother shows up to a big huge family New Year's celebration with her girlfriend on her shoulder, and it causes a stir, but the grandmother sees so much of herself in her journey in her granddaughter, so she tells the granddaughter who this woman on her arm is, what she means to her, and why she's no longer scared to hide who she is. And so you get the rest of the story through the grandmother's point of view, and the story actually takes place late 1990s, like 1998 I think was when the grandmother first started her story. So the current story is almost in the future, because you have to have the grandma, you know, grow up and have the kids and grandkids and all that stuff. So it's much more in the future than I think you realize. But what's really interesting so far that I started it, I have like 140 or so pages into it, so not quite halfway I think, but I get to understand a bit about Indonesian culture. So they're Chinese or Indo-Chinese, but they live in Indonesia, and they come. She followed her sister here, the grandmother did, to go to college. So in that part of the world, they graduate at 16, and then they go to like a junior college for 2 years before they go to regular college. So she graduated high school. She's starting college with her sister, who has been going to school in America. So the sister is around 19 and she is 16, and they're starting as freshmen together in college. And it's just kind of interesting to see that culture, to see that understanding, and learning a little bit more about that. I had read earlier this year Birth Canal, which is about the colonization and all the different events and stuff that happened in Indonesia. And so it's kind of interesting now to understand the more present tense. And I have more to read about that, but I really do enjoy getting the grandmother's story and then seeing how it will play out with the daughter or the granddaughter. And also, like I said, this is the 1 year anniversary of Syria being an independent nation. So I am currently listening to Assad, or The Country Will Burn. It's a nonfiction book about leading up to essentially a civil war, and then kind of where we are now in Syria. And then I also wanted to read for nonfiction, if I get to it, where did I have it? In my hand. I'm an idiot. The next new Syrian girl. So I do want to try to make sure that I at least, maybe if I don't finish it, at least get it started this month. It will tell the story of a Syrian American, but then a Syrian refugee, and kind of parallel stories. So I'm hoping that will help after I understand more from reading Assad or We Burn the Country. I'm also having to finish Say Nothing. I have switched to audiobook for that because it's been kind of slow going for me. It's quite dense. I enjoy it, but it's just a slower paced story right now. And then I have briefly started but paused so I can work on the other ones, A Guardian and a Thief. That one is a library book that came available, so I do have to get that one finished in the next few days. So I'll be working on that one and then give the full review later in the month. And then I also have, I want to read The Rolling Warrior. And so this is the incredible, sometimes awkward, true story of a rebel girl on wheels who helped spark a revolution. And so she deals with, is for Disability Awareness Month that I want to read it, but I want to learn about her anyway because she was first paralyzed from polio, and then she was raised by Holocaust surviving parents in New York City. And so this is her story, Judy Heumann, and her fight for disability rights. And this is actually, I thought it was a graphic novel, but it's not. It is a junior, the junior version of her story. So I guess I will have to get to it a bunch faster. I ordered it thinking it was a graphic novel. I didn't open it until now, and realized that I have more reading to do than I first thought. So we're hoping I get to this one this year as well. And then the Christmas stories that I wanted to work on. There's a couple of sapphic Christmas romances, and then the one Christmas story that was by Mary Elizabeth Braddon, who wrote Lady Alden's Secret. And that was, I think, the Christmas Hirelings. And I'm really excited about that one. It just sounded like a great found family, understanding the meaning of the season type of story. And I like her writing, so I was excited to find something else from her. So I have a lot that I need to still hopefully get to. I'm actually kind of disappointed that this one wasn't a graphic novel because this is going to take a little more time than I realized. But I'll see what I can do. Anyway, as always, happy reading. And sorry for the long blabbering video, but I did have a lot to say. So I hope that you found at least some of it enjoyable. Thank you and have a great day.